Welcome to How to Build a Fire, Season 7, 2021 version. I'm still going to take the opportunity to say Happy New Year because this is our first meeting for the new year. So we're happy to have everyone here. Lily will introduce her folks, and they're going to go first tonight. But since you mentioned that my two guests are poets, I'm really excited about tonight as well. So I'm looking forward to everything, and we're going to go ahead and get started.
Really
Lily?
quickly, if you look
Yes.
on the top right or left of your computer, you see that we're recording.
Oh, yes.
So if you do your story in the buff, which is fine, it's going to be, live. It's a live audience, so it's recorded.
Don't get Heather started. Look at her.
Heather, I was specifically thinking of you.
And for those that are telling a story tonight, we will make this recording available to you a little later on. So people have really enjoyed that process or getting it. So I just want to make you aware of that as well.
Cool. All right, Monica, you're going to take over the pinning and the spotlighting and all that stuff.
Yes, I do that. I will spotlight George, right?
Okay, yeah, I would just like to introduce George Kilby Jr., who's a man I've known way too long. And we've played together in various clubs around the world. And he's an amazing band leader, songwriter, and sweater owner. And I asked him to bring his guitar and tell a musical story. So welcome, George.
Well, thank you, Lily. I'm really pleased to be here and pleased to find out about this thing. Lily was up cross country skiing here in the Catskills, and yes, this is my log cabin way up in the Catskills, where I've spent most of the pandemic.
Where are you, George? In the Catskills.
In a little town I'm sure never heard of called North Blenheim, but it's near probably the biggest town is Oneonta. That's farther west, and I'm near the ski resorts of Wyndham and Hunter, a little bit north of those. But it's a long way, about 3.5 hours from Brooklyn.
Yeah, we're in Catskill. That's why.
Oh yeah,
we're neighbors.
Right. Yeah, right down the road. I turned there to come. You can turn 2 or 3 places. Sometimes Saugerty, sometimes Catskill. Anyway, I am glad to be able to tell a little bit of a story here for these 2 songs that have been written recently. And, being sort of sequestered in a log cabin quite a lot of the time, it's pretty natural to be introspective about a lot of things. And to have discussions, about the pandemic itself. But I'd like to go back to tell the story of this first song, which is actually about the pandemic, I suppose. The second song really is not about the pandemic, but I think all of us, there was a time when we realized how serious this was, and for many of us, it's the time that someone close to us died. And so in writing this song, I memorialized the guy that really brought it home to me when he died, and he died very early and very quickly. I think it was the 26th of March. Wow. Anyway, yeah, it was a good friend of mine named Steve Antonakis, and people called him Homeboy Steve, and we played together for many, many years, and he was part of the New York music scene, of which Lily is a big part of, and I think Lily knew Steve well. But you've got to kind of deal with death if you're going to write directly a song about this pandemic. So in the second verse, I talk about Steve and how much we miss him, and how much the music scene is minus one of us, or minus a lot of us, but especially this guy but then also I had a conversation with Sherman Holmes, who's an old timer, and he said to me, he said, the world cleans itself out every 100 years or every 50 years, or and he really felt that this was a natural occurrence, which I think there's something to that. And so I was looking out the window, and it was fall and winter was coming on, and the leaves were falling from the trees, and the leaves falling and winter coming, and those are things that we all deal with every year, and they're a symbol of death, and then the spring, of course, is a symbol of rebirth. So so I got to thinking about the pandemic in those terms, and what Sherman said about the world this is natural, it's going to happen, and when it's over, we'll go on. So I figured that any song that's about the pandemic, it has to deal with death, or it would naturally deal with death. But I think the hard part is to really deal with hope, deal with allowing hope to be as strong of a theme as death is. So I wrote it with that in mind, and it's a hard thing as a songwriter to juxtapose those two very different concepts in the same tune. So this is my attempt at doing that. It's called The Winds of the Winter. The leaves on the trees are all falling. In 2 weeks they'll be on the ground. The winds of the winter come calling. They'll come on down. I heard from my friend on the phone just this morning. His dad would be soon on his way. You see, the winds of the winter, they call him back home to stay. But the sun will come up in the morning, and so will the jonquils in June. And the winds of the winter sing a song through the trees, and it's not such a sorrowful tune when I hear the music with you. Steve traced the streets of the city with a beat-up old Gibson guitar. He was quiet, but the strings, they spoke for him each night in the bar. And we always thought he'd be with us, and we'd play as we gracefully aged. But the winds of the winter, they called him to turn the page. And the sun will come up in the morning, and so will the jonquils in June. And the winds of the winter sing a song through the trees, and it's not such a sorrowful tune when I hear the music with you. We all watch our world as she changes. We all watch our hair turn to gray. And when the winds call us, we'll answer one fine day. Spring breezes follow dark winters, and the sun shines so bright on the snow, and the leaves that have fallen make a place for the seedling to grow. And the sun will come up in the morning, so will the jonquils in June. And the winds of the winter sing song through the trees, and it's not such a sorrowful tune when I hear the music with you. When I hear the music with you. When I hear the music with you.
Woo! Thank you.
All righty. Well, there's that one. And I hope I was able to tackle those two very different themes. And I think that if we can do that in our lives, it's going to be a lot easier, but it's easier said than done. I know that. Anyway, during this pandemic, we've also had a lot of political activity, and some of it has been outlined in the pandemic. And the pandemic has given a backdrop to a very unfortunate climate of opposition. And as I approached the election this year, I thought about a lot of things, and I came up with this song. And I would bet, judging from, the nature of this crowd, that we're all fairly aligned in political leanings. But I felt that to write a song about really what's going on, the political unrest leading up to the election, and then the events of January 6th, really, I think it's important to see that there is a gulf so wide between the left and the right that, in my opinion, I don't care how good in our collective, assumed collective politics, that how good this administration is. I feel that the pendulum swing is going to be hard, and then I feel that it's going to be hard the other way. And so I really tried to concentrate on showing that in a song, and I tried to do it with a little comedy. I wrote the song from three different perspectives. You see, there's three different speakers in the tune, which I thought was just kind of a cool way to approach it. The first one is a guy that's very liberal, and he's very sure of himself. Second one is a guy that's very conservative, who's also very sure of himself. And the third one, well, I'll let you guess who the third one is. I think you'll be able to guess. But just to tell you a little aside, one of the things I've done during the pandemic, I've worked at a food bank voluntarily, as I'm a musician I play live for a living, so there's nothing much to do. I've done a few gigs, and I've done some of these things. But but you know, the food bank is run from a church, and I wrote this song, and I'm really excited to hear the poetry tonight, but I used a literary device, at least that's what I called it. And I used the word "God damn" in the same lyric as the concept of Jesus. And so, you know, and as I said, it is not a religious thing, but I did talk to I worked with this pastor at the food bank three times a week. And I said, hey man, and he's become a good friend, and I said, I wrote this song and I say, God damn it, and I also put that right up against Jesus, but it gets people's attention, and so anyway, I think it's an interesting juxtaposition, and I also, I guess I got to tip my hat to Dylan a little bit on this, because the concept is a little bit like a song he wrote in '63. I play in a band in Denmark that does this kind of protest type of thing, and it's a song about war. This song is not about war. Well, it's sort of about war because it feels like that sometimes. But anyway, that's my story. There's a couple of stories for you about the writing of this song. This song is a pretty quick one, but it's called The Great Divide. And that's where I feel that we are. And I would hope that we can close that divide soon, because that's the only way forward, in my opinion. This pendulum shifting is for the birds. It ain't gonna work. No one's gonna win. I'm telling you. Anyway, it goes like this. Here I sit with the rational man, wondering why he can't understand about Roe v. Wade and affordable care and the long list of why I'm right. I can see so clearly you're a thoughtful soul, educated mind and complete control. When we take that political roller coaster ride, but sooner or later we'll throw down the gloves and fight. Here we go again, screaming across the great divide. And we are both so goddamn sure Jesus is on our side. Here I sit with my liberal friend, just can't fathom his reasoning, because the American worker and economy keep us strong. And I really don't hate you, but you gotta admit there might be another way of looking at it. At the rate we're going, it's gonna kill us before too long. But we just can't imagine a world where either one of us is wrong. Here we go again, screaming across the great divide. And we are both so goddamn sure Jesus is on our side. Here I sit in my lofty perch, watching two old fools from the same old church pray the same old prayers in the same old righteous ways. Been down there already, and you still can't find a way to open your ears, use your minds. The way you're acting, you ought to be ashamed. But I guess my dad has it all worked out some way. And there you go there you go again, screaming across the great divide. And you are both so goddamn sure Jesus is on your side. Jesus is on your side. Yes, here we go again, screaming across the great divide. And we are all so goddamn sure Jesus is on our side.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you listening.
Yeah, thanks, George. I thought you were going to say I'm on your side, so we would be sure of who the third speaker was.
But that would,
I
that would make George
thought about
shot.
that. I didn't feel that I felt to go back to the chorus. We just used the regular chorus.
We would become God in that song then.
Yeah. I stopped real short of that.
But
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
God's dad? Who's God's dad?
My favorite version of the Dylan song is the unplugged version with God on our side. I thought he did, the best.
It's so you recognize that too. Yeah. It was. I suppose I thought of that. But it is. It's a great tune, and that one, of course, was specifically about war and everything, being 63. But I do feel that Dylan is he's a great writer. I've never been a real big Dylan fan, but that's the first time he's directly influenced me. But anyway, I'm so glad you've heard the Dylan song itself. But anyway, yeah, I hope I didn't take too much time. I know.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, cool.
All right. So do we still have Hawaii in the house?
Jovelyn, she's here.
Oh,
Yeah, Jovelyn.
hi.
Hi. This next storyteller we have is a person that my sister introduced me to, and she kept saying to me, "There's this person that I know, and you guys would get along so great." And my sister lived in Minneapolis, and so I had to, hear about this Jovelyn person for a long time, and then finally, I think I met you. You came to stay at my house in New York, right? For a couple days. Anyway, she's this completely boffo personality, and who just is living the life. She wants to go here, she wants to go there. She's doing performance art, she's doing theater, right? And now living in Hawaii, which is pretty awesome right there. Let's see. You could read her thing, but it's so long. It's like all the theater thing. She was in Budapest doing theater there, in San Francisco. She's directed theater with community groups and just done an amazing bunch of stuff. But anyway, so I finally get her on Zoom, which I think is great, because that's one good thing about doing these Zoom things is we can have people from Hawaii instead of just Brooklyn. So put your hands together for Jovelyn Richards doing a story from Hawaii.
Hello, everyone, and I'm glad. Thank you, Lily, for inviting me to be a part of this experience. And Carol, it's my heart to you. I am Jovelyn, and I'm a writer. And one of the things that I've been sharing with artists of late that George referred to was he was talking about that every 100 years, some big thing happens. And I've known that and believed that for years, that at the turn of every century, there's a renaissance that happens. That things happen that oppress people so deeply. Viruses, oppression, the economy, and that the world falls apart. And so our world has fallen apart. And our hearts have been broken. And as Alice Walker has said, when the heart is broken, it gives us an opportunity for love to come through. As a writer, what's important to me as a Black woman artist, what I began to understand as I listened to myself as an artist, that it became incredibly important to me to remember the original stories that I grew into. And the families that I worked with in my life, when I was raising my children, were in challenged communities. And they also fed the stories in my memory of when I first grew up. The families that I served were from the homeless community, from addiction communities, from levels of poverty. And I served them and they served me up something that I knew to be true, which has been very reflective in my stories, which are called the nappy-headed love stories. Nappy-headed love stories to curl and to twine and to rise and defy gravity, to evoke conversations in public spaces about Black folks' hair. And I thought that was so appropriate. The folks that I served as I was leaving that work as a family advocate, as an activist, whatever label I was functioning under, they said, Miss Jacquline, I was in California, Miss Jovelyn, don't leave. And I said to them, I'm not leaving you, but I'm taking our stories to the stages as wherever I can go, because it's important to show Black love and intimacy, which has not been at the forefront of America's consciousness. But I saw it growing up, and it defied every Dick and Jane book I read. It defied everything that was there that was given to me. I was like, the absence, right? So when Lily said to me, let's do something about fire, it was like, well, okay, fire. How to start a fire. And I believe that all fires start in the soul, which is why I want artists to think about now it's time to go into our soul. All fires start in the soul, because up in here in the thinking self, like if I'm writing from my thinking self, performing from my thinking self, I'm really performing from the construct of the world in which I was born into. That's the thinking self. A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat. If I'm writing from here, that's the brokenheartedness. That's the brokenheartedness of being born into something that may not agree with. And that's cool. That's cool. But I want to write now, while the world has fallen apart. I'm asking all of us to write from the soul. So the stories that'll be told today are from the people's lives that they don't have no names. And why I have not given them names. Because sometimes when we give people names, it sits them in one of them boxes in our thinking mind. Sits us somewhere. When you say a name or something about a person, immediately in our thinking mind, puts them somewhere. Not want them to be anywhere but inside of us. And it is the belief that when we leave this earth is when we get our true name, based on what we did, what we've been doing on the planet, the work we've done, the love we've gave, the seeds we've planted. As we become ancestors, we really get our true names. The first story is called Goodbye Fire, 1919. A lot of my nappy-headed stories, side note, starts in the enslavement era of American history and moves forward up into the time of migration. I go back to extract the things that history didn't tell us about, right? And bring them forward. So this one starts in 1919, a small town outside of Little Rock, Arkansas. They tell kids not to play with fire, but sometimes fire is all you got to play with. he wanted love more than anything, like most folks. The word love was swirled around him, her, most of their known life when they became conscious. Ooh, I love those purple whole peas. I love black-eyed peas too. Ooh, I love them. A soft side. Can't nobody, I mean nobody, make cornbread like you. Jesus, Lord have mercy. I love your cooking. He, she, he. They weren't but 3 years old when he learned that what Mama Nana loved. A soft sigh from Mama, eyes closed and out of her head. Nana, Mama Nana took a small spoon of that which she loved and put some on that baby's tongue. He, she, pink, tiny tongue took it in. And she learned to sigh, just like Mama Nana. Years go by, he, 10 years old. When Auntie sang out loud, oh, I love the rain, she said. She said, one night I took my clothes off, got naked as the day before dawn, and walked out the back door past my man and stood in the pouring rain. Thunder and lightning all around me, and I wasn't scared, no, not at all. I love a good rainstorm. Auntie standing wide-legged in the middle of the living room, hips moving to the music of that rain stirring. She wasn't talking to nobody but herself. And we just listening to a woman with a memory moving her hips to the music of a rainstorm. Now years go by, she grow up, sitting inside of relationships with people and social political things in relationship to all of that. And feeling invisible, all colored and brown and shiny and sweet, full of size and hip swinging. How you feel invisible? Thinking of Mama Nona, ain't she? The world fell apart all over again, because it wasn't the first time. But you got to remember the sweet sighs of those who weathered the storm. Those who remember when rain came across their back and walked past their man, their back arched and stood out there, got just naked just before dawn. And in that memory of that sigh, those purple whole peas, when she just this big and Mama Nana put that on her lips, on that pink tongue, and she learned to sigh. She left all the chaos of the world and flashing through the TV and sounds of people and said, no. She took an easy slip down inside her soul, slipped and fell intentionally. Call it meditation, call it whatever, call it smoking bit, just call it a cocktail, but she slipped and fell inside her soul where those and a woman sang out that I danced in a thunderstorm. And she took those intimate moments from those that she trusted and loved. And the fire started. The fire started. A fire that began long before her, that had been given to her, that had been buried under the thinking self and the broken heart. She slipped and fell so graciously, howling and singing all the way down her soul to come back as loud as everything that she was made of, to rewrite history, right at the perfect time when the world had fallen apart. A is for apple, B is for ball. Story 2, 1940s, somewhere south, but not home. She was old, old black woman. Her skin stretched out like stars. Her eyes was closed, shut, almost all the time. And folks said, she looking at us from behind a veil. Behind the veil of life and death. She looking at us, knowing things. Old black woman sit up in the church, right in the front seat. They call her the mother of the church, and she sit there and let the preacher's words wash over that dark, dark skin. She had a cane that she walked with, but she never leaned on that cane. One day, sitting in church, they heard a ruckus outside of the church, loud and screaming and hollering. Red lights flashing against the stained glass windows, making Jesus and Mary look confused. Church doors open, and a boy-sized man runs in. Brown child, all nappy-headed, looking around, seeking a place to curl himself up. What you running for? Finding somewhere womb-like. That old black woman. Say, close the door. Close that door, son. And come here. Now, he ain't too scared to whisper. Yes, ma'am. Door closed. He passed all them folks. No, ain't looking at nobody. Till he get there right in the front. She take a hanky out, wipe his face. Check your shirt in, baby. Stand right next here to me. Everything is quiet. She tell the preacher start preaching again and tell the choir start singing again. And they began. Just as the doors bust open and 10 police officers come in, guns drawn. What you want? You say you're looking for somebody that stole something? 10 of y'all with guns drawn come into the house of worship and don't even bow your head, and you come up in here because you're looking for somebody that stole something. Well, look around. Look around. Tell us who you see. Oh, and they looked around and all they saw was a bouquet of beautiful brown and yellow and dark and hats and Bibles and prayers. The choir started humming real low in harmony. Sweet, sweet, sweet Jesus. They didn't see who they was looking for. And they walked out, guns still drawn. Old black woman, skin so tight without stars, lifted that child's face. He got tears in his eyes. She take that napkin and wipe his tears. And she said, did you see that? They don't even know who they're looking for. They just running, chasing. You standing right here. They don't know you from nobody else. It's all they see. She rubbed his face. It's all they see. Now that you know that they don't know, and you know right here, right now. You ain't never done nothing to deserve them. They don't even know who they're looking for. You understand me, baby? They can't catch what they don't know. Do you understand that? Rubbed his face. She could see through those closed eyes. They say it's the veil of life and death that she see. But she saw down there in his eyes that something was rising up in him, a knowledge that he ain't never done nothing wrong. Not that kind of wrong. She could see the flame. He's starting to know who he is. Starting to want to know who he is, who he really is. The flame rising up. She told the choir, now y'all go ahead and sing us out. The end. Mahalo.
Thank you, Jovelyn. That
Thank you.
was great.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
That was a big jar of something there.
Good old whiskey with a lemon. No.
Wow. So I don't know if you have time for questions, but
Yes.
I just love to. So when you said that you were doing these stories, having people tell their stories, are those stories that you heard when you were doing that? You said you were listening to people tell stories. Was that
When I work in communities, what I heard and reflected back to them is the details of their, whatever the backdrop story was, I knew didn't belong to them. The poverty, the homelessness, the addiction, all the things that was placed on them wasn't their story. It was stories of oppressive systems. And what I was extracting was the way in which they had the intimate moments of survival between them.
mm-hmm.
And that was and so that once I understood that, because that's what I saw as a child, how folks of color was loving each other with the simple matters of a handkerchief and wiping a face and all the backdrop stories of who people was trying to make them believe they were. And that's what the families offered me. I would watch them and just be in love with how, like a father and son was walking together to a meeting I was facilitating. And the father was looking down at him, and the little boy was looking up at him, and they was playing with one another. So when I came in, what I would do was play a game. I would watch them at the window come to the office where we would facilitate. I'd watch their movements, and then when they would get in the room, I would reflect back what I saw, and I would do the colors of shirts and hats and everything. They would start looking around until it was like, that was us. Yes, it is. That was loving each other.
Nice.
And so I began to do the series of Nappy-Headed Love Stories, Black Love and Intimacy, because they shaped what I knew to be true and empower. And I knew that was part of the work I was going to do.
Beautiful.
To tell the stories, yes.
All right.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Lily said you came and visited her in Brooklyn. I can't
Yes.
imagine trading in Hawaii for Brooklyn, but thank you for that too.
Well, I was living in the Bay Area with that time. I've been in Hawaii for a year. I got here October.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening.
Lily and I forgot to say who we were.
Oh, yeah.
We always do. I'm Jackie Reason. I'm a memoirist and essayist and playwright. And this is my friend Lily White, my co-host.
Yes. I'm a musician and also writer, and have gotten to know Terence through the years, listening to stories and how to build a fire. So I'm happy to be co-hosting with Jackie this season.
Okay, thank you. Monica, are you going to tell us about the lovely open source gallery?
Also, we do
I
a little group participation during the break, and if anybody can think of one silver lining that happened this month or this week to you, we could suggest that during the break. Sorry, Monica, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes, no problem. Open source, right? That's what the question was.
Yes, tell us about this lovely place.
Yeah, so right now, honestly, this is great. This is Zoom based and it's perfect because open source gallery is closed just for the month of, like physically closed just for the month of January. But we are already working on the next show, and that will be James Hanahan opening up February 18th, and it's called Jim Crow, Hell No. And there's going to be tons of signs that I think will make some laugh and maybe some not. They are very, yeah. So that's kind of like what we have coming up, and that's what I'm working on. And I love working with James Hanahan. He's really, really, really a delight to work with. And yeah, and so what else? We are launching a campaign really soon about like our patronage program. So that's coming up really soon. More fundraising as usual. But I think this campaign is really, really great because it allows you to be a member for $5 even only. So
A month?
$5 a month, but also obviously there's more possibilities. I'm going to put that in there too, in the chat. But otherwise, yeah, like open source, I'm so happy to see a lot of people here. That's all I can say. And happy New Year, and so glad everybody's here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Monica. And you are the founder of Open Source?
Yes.
Okay, we just want to make sure we get you in there too. We are going to take what I've learned. These are called bio breaks. Terence is going to be our host during that time. What are we taking? 5 minutes, Terence?
I mean, I think we should put it to a vote like we did the second and the music. You know, that second story would have been better as a third story if you ask me. I just
she was on Hawaii time, but when we come back, we'll see the rest of our storytellers. So we're going to take a short bio break. Terence, can you pose your question again for us?
Yes, I would like to hear from those who are not telling stories a silver lining of the week, something that if you don't have it, then that's cool. You don't have to say anything. But if you have some moment of joy that has happened in the last couple of days, that might help the rest of us string along our debaucherous lives in the quarantine. Don't all talk at once. Monica, do you mind doing the all unmute for the break?
I tried that, but all I can do is ask all to unmute. That's not.
Oh, right. They can't do it all together.
I can't.
Well, you'll have to unmute yourselves to answer the question.
They have to be willing to unmute.
Robert, why don't you tell us what your good thing was this week?
You just want to put me on the spot, right?
I just know that you're an extrovert and you like to talk. Robert and I have known each other for years. That's why the only reason I can say that.
A silver lining. I walked out of some pain this week. You know, I'm feeling more confident and empowered. So thank you for asking that question.
Anybody else? Martine?
I'd like to screen share if I can figure it out. Would that be okay?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I mean, you know, hijack anything. I don't care.
Okay. Oh, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh no, I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, put Monica to the test. I love it.
Okay. Yesterday, I had a whole lot of errands to do. I live in Vermont now after many growing up between New Hampshire and the city, and many years in Brooklyn, where I know some of the poets here from, which is why I'm here, and Monica. Oh, wait, is it Sharon? Well, yesterday I got to go on back roads.
Wow.
With beautiful music, perfect low light, and landscape poetry. It was just extraordinary. It was the most incredible gift in a really hard week. It was just amazing, and it just felt so rejuvenating to see these quiet, cold fields that in spring burst forth so quickly. And that was my joy this week. Did you see them?
Yeah, no, they're great.
They're
wonderful.
beautiful. We're speechless.
Thank you
It
for
was-
that gift. Thank you.
It left me speechless. I just kept gasping all by myself in the car driving for hours. It was lovely.
Well, I'll tell you, my joyful moment was opening my sock drawer and having a cat leap out of it.
Was it your cat or just like a
Yeah, my
brand
cat.
new-
It was
a
just
brand
like,
new
but
cat?
she's not allowed in this floor, and I was just like opening the sock drawer, and it was like, wow. So I was so glad that I opened it, you know, because
A Jack in the Box.
I know she might have just been locked in there for 2
Cat in a drawer. Can I share something?
Yeah, of course.
You don't
go
know
ahead.
me. I'm a
Yeah.
friend of Lily's and a friend of Moni's, and I love how to build a fire. I'm just gonna go grab something to show.
Show and tell.
Elise just went to get her gun.
This is my show and tell. I planted bulbs last week, and they all got like a mini field
Wow.
of beautiful deep purple crocuses, which I
Beautiful.
think are a little on their way out. But I had such a shitty ass week. It really brought me so much joy. I kept going over to the window and looking at them, and then going back to my desk and walking back to look at them to fill me with hope. So just sharing.
Thank you.
That's great.
I'd like to share something.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, we've Sarah and I have been babysitting for our 4.5-year-old grandson, Justice. And he was born very prematurely and never learned to eat. He's always been fed through a gastro tube and has not shown a whole lot of interest in food. And this week, he sort of really just began to get into food.
That's huge. That's huge.
Very
Go Justice.
And taking the spoon and putting the food in his mouth.
Mm.
And what was it he said to his mother?
Eat up, babe.
Oh, here you go. Here you go, babe.
Here you go, babe.
He was
There's some
mother.
black-eyed peas on the tongue that are taking hold.
And now you can rub that in your child's face from here on out because it's your grandson, right? Like, we got them to eat.
And by the way, Elise is his auntie Elise. And
Yeah.
we love to-
Okay.
Yes.
Auntie
He's
Elise.
a remarkable child.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Kim, you got something for us?
I do. Speaking of food, I don't know when during COVID, there's a soup kitchen not far from me called Chips,
Oh, yeah.
and they didn't have enough food anymore. I think the co-op was helping them and whatnot. And so there was a woman on my block that started asking neighbors to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And so at first she collected 200. And so every Wednesday we deliver peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to her house. And yesterday she had over 300 sandwiches, fruit, muffins, cookies, brownies. And so she just delivered all of this food. So it's just like what one person can do, you know? So I'm just so impressed. And that's just one block.
That's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What else do we got? Ron, you want to say something? Oh, wait, sorry, who's that down there?
Sure, I can. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jackie. Good to see you. Heather, Robert, Kim. I know you from, I don't know where.
Ron gets around. I'm going to ask him to storytell for us at another point.
Well, it's wherever you guys, wherever you give us great inspiration, because I love coming to these events because it inspires me. But However, what nobody inspired me when the pandemic started last March, I looked at my living room and my bedroom and I said, I'm going to spend that time organizing everything and going through my papers. Well, it took me till last week, like 10 months to finally do that. And it finally feels so great. Like, before I was sitting in the corner, like with my little laptop. Now I'm like, I can breathe and I'm actually happy to be on the computer now. So
that's great.
Yes, if you want to do it, don't wait, don't hesitate like me. Like if you could get to it and you'll feel much better afterwards.
Oh, thank you. That's inspiring. It may not happen, but it's inspiring.
There's somebody that doesn't have a name underneath her, but you wanted to say something that inspired
I'll
her.
say something. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, now I can see your name.
Yeah. I've been having fun making little scenes from plastic. I hate plastic, and I was collecting it at Coney Island all summer and now, and it's like, and I have sand, so I feel like I'm playing in a sandbox, making these little things, and it's really rare for me to like enjoy being alone and just playing with sand and plastic. So I'm really happy. I'm like finding this new part of myself, and I'm gonna show them Saturday at the gallery outside. And Monica's making her wonderful pumpkin soup.
I know. Yes.
What's that? Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
yeah. Go ahead, Monica.
No, I just, now that you say that, I'm so happy that you say that, because that was really part of my, that's what I should have had. That's what I was supposed to say.
Monica, I got you. I knew that we were going to get to Anne, and I knew that she was going to say the thing about the sand and that's why I opened it up to the floor, because Anne needed to say something.
Thanks. Yeah. But I encourage everyone to become a kid again. And there's weird things all over the ground. Like if you come, you'll see like those toothpick things, and like, anyway, it's fun. And so anyway,
Whoever is in Brooklyn, come on by really on Saturday. It's going to be great, because we're just going to make some, Anne is going to present her playful sculptures, and I will make some soup. So
pumpkin soup.
Why didn't you mention pumpkin soup before? I would have come tonight. Okay. Thank you.
Pumpkin soup on Zoom. That's a good one. Yeah.
We have to go to the pumpkin soup of the mind.
It's not the same. Has everyone that wanted to share had an opportunity?
I have a little story, Carol. A couple weeks ago, my husband and I left cold Minnesota and flew on a plane for the first time in 11 months to Aruba. So here we are.
Wow.
And the next day we got there, I was feeling just great and all those plans I had. I was when we went on this hike in the national park, and we were walking up the hill, and then we stopped in the shade because it's real hot there. And I looked down at my shoe, and there was a 10-inch centipede on my shoe. A huge, like a lobster skin. And I was so horrified. I never knew such a thing existed. And I did this karate kick so fast. I pulled a muscle in my butt, and so I thought, so then I was really in a foul mood the rest of the week, thinking, okay, this vacation is ruined. Come all this way, taking all these chances. Anyway, but on Tuesday night, we signed up for a little kayak ride at night in the ocean. And so it was just us in a double kayak and then the leader. And so we got out in the middle of the ocean, and it's pretty calm. But anyway, at about 7 o'clock, on one side you look one side and the sun was going down, this little red globe, and then on the other side there was a full moon up in the sky, and we just
Wow.
got to sit out there, you know, and watch it happen. So
Cool.
now I have a totally new outlook.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. We have gone from the snows in Vermont to
Butt
the
pulling,
waters
pulling
in
one's butt,
Aruba.
pulling one's butt. I sprained my butt.
Thank you. Okay, so our next storyteller is Heather Archibald. I'm going to read you a little bit of her very extensive bio.
It wasn't extensive.
You're accomplished. It's extensive. It's okay. And then I'll tell you where Heather and I met. Okay. Heather Archibald is from migrated from St. Kitts to New York, where she studied English at Lehman College, CUNY, earning her bachelor's and master's degree. Since then, she has taught English courses at colleges both in New York and St. Kitts. In 2000, Heather published her first collection of poems entitled Pregnant These Past 20 Years. I love that title. Heather is also a Callaloo Fellow in Poetry. Her second collection of poems, Home Home, was published in the summer of 2016. And I'll just read you one of her other ones, which is Heather received the 2018 Brio Award for her short story, Crowded Harbor. And Heather and I met in 2015. I took my first class in New York because I was going to become a writer. And Heather was the first person I met in class. And she was warm, and I was like, oh, is this how life is going to be? And we have run into each other and become compatriots in many places since then. She is, I'm going to tell your story, Heather. She is in New York, back in New York, visiting. She's teaching at home in St. Kitts, and they're much more open than we are. So I talked to Heather the other day, and I said, you've got an open ticket. She said, oh my God, I can't take it. I can't stay indoors. I can go to the sea. I can do things in St. Kitts. So she's leaving soon. But so we're very honored to have her tell a story for us tonight. But she is a gifted poet, a wonderful friend, and you know, anybody that wants to be a writer should know Heather, because she's a great person to support you. Ladies and gentlemen, Heather Archibald.
Ooh, thank you. Wow, it feels like I knew you longer than, what did you say, 2015? Oh my goodness, feel like sisters. Thank you for all those little stories that I was trying to think what my silver lining was. So I guess there's one. Tonight I celebrated with a girl whom I met when she was 9, and she's now 49. And we're still family.
Nice.
And so we did all that cutting of cake earlier. She knows that I have to Zoom. It's my life. So that was my silver lining. I particularly like the one, Carol, because I've been in St. Kitts, and yes, there are centipedes and mosquitoes. And, you know, I guess paradise just has to have something to keep us humble, you know. Anyway, so my story tonight, so I have to tell you, I'm better at reading my poetry than I am at telling a story. And I know I couldn't read you this long story, so I'm kind of gonna trust my memory tonight to tell you the story. I wrote the story some time ago. I was in the MFA program, and even though I fancied myself a poet, I took a lot of classes in fiction, because I always feel like I have a story to tell, and I use poetry to tell my stories usually. So I thought that I needed to beef up my skills, and I don't know, I hope I did. Anyway, so this is a fairy tale. I wrote this story in a class writing for young children and young adults. So this is my story. So St. Kitts and Nevis are two islands that become joined together in federation. So and believe it or not, we are a country with a flag and everything, independent country, the smallest in the Western Hemisphere, but that's okay. So the story is kind of based on St. Kitts and Nevis, and I call these islands in the story Big Isle and Little Isle. And of course, there are all kind of political little stupid divides among the two islands, or between the two islands, but we're trying to work on them. So this is a story of a girl called Angeline. Her mother named her Angeline, but for some reason, as in the Caribbean, we always find a name for somebody other than the name that you put on their birth certificate. So they call her Tiny because the grandmother said she was so small for her age. And so she is known as Tiny, but Angeline is her real name, but nobody uses that name. And so it is that Angeline lives on Big Isle with her father, who's a fisherman. Her mother has recently died. And one day, a woman appears at the gate of their shabby house and speaks to the father outside, because children are not supposed to hear what big people are talking about, right? And they better don't enter the conversation, even if they did hear. So the children stayed in, on the other side of the fence. And then the father comes in and this woman comes in and he asks for the children to line up, sort of Sound of Music, like I used to like that. And you have the big one and then, and that's as far from St. Kitts as you could get, right? But so the woman is asking, she points to the oldest child, who is not Angeline or Tiny. She is, I forget her name, forgive me. So the oldest girl. And she points at that one, and the father says, very sadly, he says, no, we can't have that. You can't have that one because she is the one who cooks and washes. She is the mother in the family, which is usually what happens to older girls when the mother is not there, or even when the mother is there, because usually the mother is busy having other children. So the oldest girl becomes the little mother in the household. So the woman, so Tiny, this child, is the other girl in the family, and she is near to the last. The last one is a boy, and there are two boys in between the first child, let's call her Ruth, because I forgot what her name was, and the other, and Angeline. So there are these two boys, and Tiny is thinking, maybe they'll take one of the boys, because she figures it has something to do with taking them, because a lot of times if you have one family with a lot of children and then there's somebody else who has a better, more money and, better status in life, they would take a child to live with them. And so you have people who have a sibling growing up in another household and they know who they are, who their parents are. So it works out like that sometimes, but not always. And so Tiny figures out that they're probably trying to take, this woman has come to get one of the children, and she's hoping it's one of those two brothers who give her a hard time, right? And then the woman points to her because the woman is interested in a girl. And the father by now looks very sadly and kind of sighs. And Angeline finds herself going with this woman. And as she walks out the door, she hears her younger brother, Delroy, crying his heart out because they were buddies, because they were close in age, and the last two children. And it's as if she walks to the pier because they're going to take the boat from Big Island to Little Island. And Tiny hears this screaming of this brother of hers. And when she gets to Little Island, it seems like she's going to hear this crying for many nights in her sleep. So she goes with the woman who's known as Madosha, because she's a big woman in her little village, and she owns a shipping business, which her husband has passed and left her with, and she manages it well, and she manages the fishermen and the people who work for her. And she's a woman of means. And she brings Tiny into the house because everybody calls her Tiny. And for a while, Tiny, there's a lot of food and she has her own room and she is happy for a while, even though she still dreams of her brother crying and her siblings, the others that she misses. And she's hoping that one day this big house could hold all of them, right? And so for a while, she's happy, even though she has a lot of work to do. The woman owns a fishing business, and Angeline finds herself having to clean a lot of fish. And if you know anything about cleaning fish, that is not pleasant. First of all, the little things on the fish, the fins and those things, you have to know how to maneuver past them, to cut them off, and they stick you in your fingers. So poor and Tiny goes around with her fingers all sore. And she has to wash and she has to clean the house. And it turns out that her life there is really one of drudgery, and she's only 8 years old. And so it goes on. She doesn't mind the work as much because she used to do little odd jobs in her own yard, but there seems to be always this anger of Madosha, like she couldn't do enough and she didn't get any praise. And, Madosha was so strict. She, wouldn't allow her to play with children her age. She felt all little girls were bad and were going to become bad women, and forget it, the boys were all going to go to jail. So poor Tiny finds herself isolated in this life of drudgery. One day she says to Madosha, she says, maybe it would be a good idea to bring Delroy with, and he could help you because he's stronger than I am. And Madosha had a fit. So you think I want to feed another one of you? I'm just helping out my long relative and helping you so that, you could have a better life. And why you think I would want another child? And so that was the end of that. Tiny had to resign herself to the fact that she's going to be alone, even though she came from a big family, and even though they were poor and didn't have much to eat sometimes, and the father couldn't find, when fishing season was over, he would turn his hand to other things. There never seemed to be enough money, but somehow she wished that she was home. So life went on, and one summer, just before school started, she heard this noise. She got up in the night and she couldn't sleep, and she heard this commotion outside, and she peeped through the window and saw these men bringing in this big animal to the yard. She had a feeling she knew what it was because it had happened before. But after they quieted down and all the commotion was over and the men had left, she crept out and she went out into the yard and she saw this turtle, a huge turtle, bigger than any she had ever seen. And the turtle was strapped down by his fins and tied onto some logs and could not move. All, 4 parts of it his legs were tied on, and it was strapped over the back and really tied down. And it was just, the flippers were just moving and digging the sand out of where the fins were and making this big heap of sand. And she walks over to the turtle. This is in the middle of the night. And it looks up at her and she looks into its eyes, and she just felt like that somehow she could understand this captivity that this turtle was living in at that time. And as she draws closer, and she hears Angeline, and she's looking around and thinking, oh my God, there's a Jumbie out here. Jumbie's a ghost in the Caribbean, at least in St. Kitts, Nevis. And she said, how do you know my name? That's not even the name people know me by. That's my secret name. And the turtle says to her, yes, I know your name. And that is your name, not the other name. But if you could free me, I would be so grateful to you. And Angeline stayed there for a while and wondered how she could free this huge, monstrous turtle. But she left and she went she went around the yard to where she knew there was a big machete, and she comes back with it and she cuts through the ropes and opens the gate, and the turtle, flips and flippers itself out of the yard across the street, and she walks with her down to the sea. And she knew it's a her because, of course, it's a turtle who has come up to lay her eggs that the fishermen have caught and brought into the yard. She also knows that by morning, this turtle is going to be turned into some slimy green and yellow meat that she's going to see on the table, because Madosha will get her portion of it. So she knows that she has to help this turtle, and she's happy that she does it. And the turtle said, tomorrow I'm going to be 100 years old. And I am so pleased. I really have to do something for you. And the turtle said, what would you like? And she said, I too want to go home. And he said, okay, so meet me at the end of the bay tomorrow night, and I will take you home. And so Angeline goes back across the bay to the yard. Now the sun is rising in the east. And as she walks into the yard and comes into the house, Madosha is just getting up and she's like, where are you coming from? And at that time, the men are coming into the gate, and Madosha hears them, and they said, we come to get the thing. And she said, go ahead. And then she, like, something strikes her, and she walks out the door and leaves Tiny in the house. And Tiny braces herself because she knows they're gonna know that there's no more turtle. And then there's this big yell and this, confusion and men talking and yelling. And the woman comes in and she tells Tiny, so what did you do? And Tiny, before Tiny could answer, she takes a belt and she starts to beat her and holding her, by her collar and beating her. And one of the men come in and said, don't bother, get yourself in trouble for her. And Tiny decided this is the moment. And she said, I want to go home too. I sent the turtle home and I want to go home. And Madosha looks at her, she can't believe that anybody could be so ungrateful, that she's not happy that she's here and she's turning against her. And for a minute, she stopped and just walked away. And she told Tiny, well, if you want to go, you can go. But Tiny doesn't go right away because she knows she has to meet the turtle later, the next night. And so she stays around and she does whatever housework she can do, sleeping while she's washing the dishes, sleeping while she's hanging out the clothes on the line, sleeping while she's cleaning the yard, sleeping while she cleans whatever fish there was. And that night, Madosha has left her alone, totally figuring, I guess, that she will send her home maybe on the weekend, if she ever does. And Tiny leaves and walks across the street, up the bay, to the end of the bay. And she's wondering, am I gonna really see this turtle? Is this all something I dreamt? And as she walks, she sees, as she's coming into the end of the curve where she's gonna be looking onto Big Island, where the closest point she can get to Big Island while she's on Small Island. And she says, the other way around. She's on Big Island and she's going to Small Island. And she sees this green tint in the water under the moonlight. And she knows that turtle is here. And Turtle says, come, come, sit on my back. And that point is the nearest point to the two islands. So Turtle is able to take her across. And she reaches at home. She reaches home. And she's holding on to the little stone that she got. And as she comes onto the sand in front of her house, the little shabby house that used to be painted white across the street. And she says goodbye to Turtle, and she looks in her hand, and under the sun, it shines with gold. And she walks across the street. She's holding the golden stone in her hand, but she's looking at the gate and looking at the quietness, because it's in the quiet of the morning, and just thinking of how lovely it would be to see her family again. The end.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Great story.
Wow. That was amazing.
Wow.
Thank you, Heather. You told that like a poet.
Thank you.
I know. And you know what's really upsetting is that in America we write poetry, but if you're from St. Kitts, what do you write? You write poetry. And how do you say poem? Heather, what do you write?
Poetry.
Oh, God. So much better than what I can accomplish.
Never hear hardly ever hear a happy ending anymore, especially now.
Oh God, we need some happy endings.
Happy ending.
Yay.
Is that a short story that's coming out soon?
It actually, it was published in this last summer's. If some good things came out of last summer. In the Caribbean writer, and coming out from St. Croix, the University of the Virgin Islands. There's more to the story. I had to kind of, just take a thread, but yes, and it might be something that, it would be, I don't know. I will tell it to people, that's it.
Heather, I can see some writers in the mix here. I mean, it's a lot of writers. And the fact that you were able to riff your story is in and of itself just this fantastic feat.
Well, it surprises me too, because I was worried about my memory.
It was beautiful.
And how distracted I will get by some loose thought in my head.
So, the best part of the story is when you get on a little tangent.
Yes, but I could go too far.
Thank you, Heather. Although I was waiting for us to eat that turtle, so I thank you for the lovely ending.
That would be an Irish version of that story. It'd be like a little potato, and we would definitely.
I wrote that story with a sense of wanting some absolution, because we grew up in that climate. And I remember we used to terrorize those turtles when they came into our yard, because we lived right across from the sea. My grandparents had these arrangements with fishermen, so things always came into our yard. And when a turtle came into our yard, that was fun, because we would go and we'll pick up sand. And so this is my absolution, my confession, to get the turtle to go back to the sea. You didn't want any turtle soup.
Okay, we've been talking about Jesus a lot tonight, so I think you've been forgiven. Heather.
Yes, I think the story did it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our final storyteller tonight is the lovely Robert Gibbons. Robert Gibbons, a native Floridian with fans, came to New York City in 2007 in search of his muse, Langston Hughes, and found a vibrant contemporary poetry community at the Cornelia Street Cafe. He has many others on here, but I know Cornelia Street Cafe brings like a special feeling to my heart, so I'll mention that one. but a number of venues. His first book, Close to the Tree, was published by the New York-based Three Rooms Press in 2012. Robert is a literature professor at the City College of New York, a Cave Canem Fellow, and has received residencies from the Norman Mailer Foundation and the Disquiet International Literary Program. He completed his MFA at City College in 2018. Robert has been published in over 30 literary magazines and in several notable anthologies. He and I are both published in the Bronx Memoir Project, Volume 2. And Robert lives in Brooklyn and continues to be active in the New York poetry scene. Flight is his second poetry collection. And I'll just say that I first met Robert at Women Writers in Bloom Poetry Salon, someplace that we frequent and that I came to Brooklyn for often against my will. But and then we've encountered each other through the years, and he continues to inspire. He's a great person to have in a room when you are writing. He's that guy that you turn around and you say, did you just write that? Because you can't believe it. But he's a wonderful poet, and I'm I have gratitude for him being here tonight. And with that, I will give it over to Robert Gibbons.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. You know, this is the first night I'm wearing reading glasses, the first time. So this is a historic event because I've been in denial about reading glasses. So, you know, finally I said, okay, I'm going to break it out, but I'm crossing. You know, but it's so good to be in your virtual company. I'm so happy to the people that I know along the journey. Like Terence and Monica and Jackie and Heather and Kim and all of the wonderful people that are in my voice. I'm just so inspired constantly by the wealth of support that I have around me, and I'm just grateful each day. And it's really been a journey, it's a great journey, because I just expressed at the beginning, I kind of, you know, I've been going through loss and some pain, but I am empowered. And that being said, I just like to pay honor to my mother, Dorothy, and my father, Robert. My grandmother's Maddie and Versi, and my grandfather's Jethro and Sammy. I just like to start off like I always start off with a little song that I've been trying to learn how to sing the words. And it says, for every star in the sky, you're the reason why. For you, for you, for you. For every star in the sky, you're the reason why. It's for you, for you, for you. I am an evolved form searching for the light. In 2017, I went to a place called Leadsville, Colorado, and this is what I felt. As soon as I arrived in the West, I knew I would be infinite. The plane took me beyond the Appalachian Mountains, top gallant to the Rockies, to an elevation of 10,000 feet, in search of the light, in search of my eyesight, and who will dictate Earth? Living in this dearth of dilapidation and mutilation, I am a stranded archipelago, east meeting the west as I make my ascension to climb, to rhyme up there. It was the smell that brought me there. Way up in the atmosphere, I had to catch up with my breathing like I had to catch up with my reading. I felt so supercumulus and nebulous. Even the snow pellets felt like miniature asteroids. It was that smell that brought me there. Way up in the atmosphere, I wanted to collect all the muses and I wanted to use them as heavenly bodies, and I wanted to get rid of my stodginess and all my ungodliness. Way up there In the smell of the atmosphere, the mountains began to sanquain and baptized me in a latter rain. So I stood on a rampart as fortress, and it moved like precipitated forces that there were clashes of night and day. And I could see beyond my eyesight. It was that smell that brought me there. And who will dictate earth in the attitude of this mirthiness? And who knows the moment of a story when big, bold, micro gray and micro sky, as I tried to elevate higher and higher, I began to rub sage and wild lavender and nasal my way to eucalyptus and oleander. It was that smell that brought me there. The rock and the river and the scene became a life giver. The earth began to birth me, and the earth began to deliver me. And all I could do was say, Frisco, Frisco, let me go. Up, up, up there, up there, further up top this, like this, the mist, the rain, refrain, the tree, the rock, the tree, the rock, the tree, up there, the Milky Way. I got out of my way, and who will dictate earth? Who makes mulch from the divine? And if God has formed, then allow me to be born miles to go to this precipitation. This precipitation is meditation. This precipitation is meditation. It's a medicinal quality that I felt. It has philology. It has vision and trance and romance with the aspen tree. A real family. The aspen tree is a real family. The aspen tree is a real family living in their cosmogony, in their philosophy. The earth, the midnight is the light. The pitch black was my sight. I can see in the dark. I see far beyond my formless self. And I need to hydrate before I make a new storm, before I become a new form. It was that smell, so I metamorphosized. So I anthologized her. As she and I bent her curves, I had the urge to smell. I had the urge to folktale and trail. It was the bikes and the smells that brought me there, way up in the atmosphere. I'm looking for the light. I'm looking for the light. Everything in the universe is in motion. I moved from one place to another. But the other was Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson, the 7th president, crossed over into Florida. He was a charger on an upright horse. The blotch he made in the democratic process, it was that 7th president, Andrew Jackson. He knew that people already existed. He knew people always resisted. Everything in the universe is in motion. Everything in the universe is motion. The names desecrated and exhumed from our burial mounds. The names extinct and extant. And we only knew a certain group of people as criminal Seminoles. But what is a name besides an attachment? We only knew the Seminoles as criminals. When we scalp and when we TP, when we use our words outside the definitions to describe a group of people, and we call them Indians, and maybe they should be natives, maybe they should be Mandan, maybe they should be Sioux, maybe they should be Tampa, maybe they should be Crew. There were so many names, and all these names, and all these souls, and all these chiefs, and all these communions, and all these beliefs. I became being eradicated. And it is rumored that the people in Florida knew their land. They knew their land without border, or conqueror, or philanderer, or blunderer. And they knew Mother Earth, birth in them are one with God, a God of fog, a God of smoke and breath, a God, the upcoming storm around her waist, and they knew Mother Earth. From the gullies of the Mississippi to the height of the Rockies, I need some inspiration to sunbathe and commune in the river called Monocracy, called the legendary Hudson. And the earth does not belong to only us. The earth does not belong, but they knew how to choose between heaven and earth, between salvation and damnation. This It's so indigenous as I look at Lakota rock and brown face and red face and white face that face the sun. So now I have to face myself.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do one more. Thank you. One more vignette, small vignette for you.
Robert.
Yes.
Will you do me a favor and tell us a little bit about the Florida that you know versus the Florida that we know before the poem? Because I've heard you talk about Florida before, and I'd just love to hear that.
The Florida that you know. Okay. Well, I grew up in a small part of Palm Beach County, and Palm Beach County is very famous now, and everybody knows why. And that's that same county that our last president lives in. And so, but I lived on the most western part of that county near a big lake that the natives call Okeechobee. So that lake is supposedly the second largest freshwater lake in the whole country. I think there's one larger one, but it's full of fresh water. It was like the source of the irrigate. I lived in a city surrounded by sugarcane. So sugarcane was the big industry there. There were lots of alligators, lots of wildlife, lots of panthers, because the Black Panther is Florida's state animal, by the way. And to witness a panther, you need to run, just like an alligator, you know what I'm saying? And my mother was so in so much fear of alligators, she wouldn't allow us to go on any field trips. She's like, no, you're not going to the alligator farm. I wanted to go to the Cypress Swamp, and I wanted to go to the alligator farm with all my classmates. And my mother was like, no, because who knows how many alligators are down here? So there are millions of alligators, and people are beginning to pet alligators. And no, I will not have my children around alligators. So she had this whole thing about alligators, so we couldn't go on alligators. But anyway, to answer your question, Terence, it was a very isolated, simple life. One high school, one middle school. My mom was an elementary teacher, so she taught at the elementary school. So it was a very small community.
And what was school like?
Kids, what can I say? Jumping and running and the sun would be 100 degrees. So, jumping and running and trying to stay cool half the time. Yep. But I'm blessed. I mean, I had parents that were educators, so we were reading, and my mom had picture books and pictures and words written on the refrigerator, and I'm on my bed, my blankets and everything. So I grew up in a literary life, it was a gift to me. I have no complaints as far as my background or where I come from or any of the people that are in my life that have touched my life. My second grade teacher, I knew her clearly up until the time I was in college, and she would call me, and she was my mom's friend. And my mom, and the good thing about having a mother that's a teacher in a third grade teacher, is that she's going to make sure you get the best teachers in the school. And that she handpicked all my teachers in elementary school, and they were her friends, so I was good. I'm set. I was in the spelling bee at second grade because of my mom, so I love spelling and I love oratory. So I was in the play, The Goose, in third grade. Oh, what's the use? He's a silly, silly goose. He's a light-hearted, light-headed goosey, woosey, woo. With his honks, 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 he is as senseless as a donkey. He's a light-hearted, light-headed goosey, woosey, woo. Thank you. I think I'm going to stop right there.
So shy.
Yeah.
I think you're done.
Thank you, Robert, for bringing
Thank
the
you.
fire. It is always a joy to work with you. Thank you so much. Okay, well, this has been a lovely start to the year 2021. It's not the beginning of our season. Lily and I are counting down. I can't talk about her, but I know about me.
Wait, do we have one more story from Robert?
Yeah.
Or no?
Robert, if you want to read your
They want
story,
you to read your vignette.
Robert, you got to read it.
Yeah, vignette.
I just sung the Goosey Woosey Woo song.
Credit for that.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to hear the vignette. Let's see the
Hits us
hands.
with one more, Robert. We
Yes,
ask you.
yes, we got the
Yes.
hands.
Encore.
Gotta unmute.
Thank you. All right. I'll give you one more. All right. Oh man, okay. Am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay. The human, and this is a tribute to Mary Oliver. We lost Mary Oliver a few years ago, and I just love nature poetry and poets that can entertain with nature. And oftentimes, I'll go to the park, Prospect Park, and walk, read, and write, and commune with the trees out there. So this is a tribute to Mary Oliver and her influence on my life. Sweet latitudes. We are living in impending times. All kinds of disasters, all kinds of missteps kept beneath Mother Earth. And I think Mother waits for us. Mother has nature, but Mother has patience when she rations out her storms and pestilence. And she has former and latter rain, the way she frames and forms us. And the hurricane may find us. If we're kind, maybe it finds us. Kindness begets kindness. I try to focus on the blue ocean or the infinite atmosphere, the people with all its smears and accusations, with all its myths and obligations. The hurricane is going to find you. It may not. Magic could be incantation. The way the artist with imagination, it will move us past this storm. Maybe we will be reborn. Sweet latitude. I woke this morning. I woke afraid because I did not have this or that. To me, the world seems scattered light. It seems to me, once again, I do not have a handle on things, but I should. I have always been since inception. Certainly mistakes abound, and wise teachers say we should learn from our mistakes, little experiences that teach us that we're human and we're motivated by what is given. I would do what I needed to, even if I made a misstep. I made poor choices along the way, and I would get there anyway. Thank you.
Beautiful.
We had our first encore tonight. It seems like every time we have something new. George, thank you so much for your music and your stories about your music.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, George, really quickly, if you look in the chat, I put in my favorite quarantine song.
I saw the Billy Bragg thing. I'll look it up. That's great.
Lily, can you say your other storyteller's name for us?
So Jovelyn Richards. Yeah, she because it's still the work day back in Hawaii. She had a meeting or something to do, a phone meeting.
We have no sympathy for her. She's in Hawaii. And Heather, I don't think we're going to see each other before you. We have plans, don't we, Robert? And anyone else that's interested to be on St. Kitts on the beach doing poetry with Heather.
No, it's not poetry. It's what?
I want to tell you that Heather invited me to St. Kitts, and I've been there with her, and she knows how to party. Okay.
Oh, y'all been on me.
Sounds good. Let's go.
I'm inviting myself.
Working on plans, people. Working on plans.
Plastic there.
Yes.
Heather, for 10 years, I was a chef. I will like earn my keep if I can say that for 10 days.
Just let's wait until the scourge is over.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna bring the COVID with me. I'll wait.
He's living on a clean island. Okay.
Yes, COVID free.
COVID free.
Wow. Oh,
Yes,
God bless.
yes.
That's why she's
And,
going.
and I have to quarantine when I get back there. Forced quarantine, not quarantine if you want to. You know, guards to make sure you stay. So we've had some cases, but they've all been the people have recovered, and we're blessed. No deaths. Thank the Lord.
I'd like to make a
Right.
shout out. I like to make a
So
shout
they
out.
make you go to a hotel and keep you
Yes,
there?
they're designated places. Yes.
How
And
long?
the 2 full weeks. Ooh.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, when you leave, you're good. You get tested before and after. So
That's like Australia.
very strict. It's very strict. But
Yeah, Australia. I heard about that. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they just
And it's a small community. I mean, we're talking about 50,000 people, so it's really easy to, you know, if you step out of line, people, the authorities will know. You know, people are very, very careful about that, and it's like living in a prison camp, really. But
oh, to have a government that cares about its people.
yes, yes.
And Robert Gibbons, thank you so much. I
thank
always
you.
love when you sing. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your
I just
voice.
wanted to say I want to give a shout out to Mama Vicky Aqua in Cleveland, Ohio, that made this T-shirt specifically for me. I don't know if she's out there. She said she was coming to the audience, but I wanted to show her that I have on her T-shirt. And it has a little teddy bear. She handmade the little teddy bear, and so and so yeah.
It's recorded, so she can see.
Thank you.
Tonight was so
Next
great,
month-
by the way.
Yeah, very nice. Next month, it's I think it's February 26th. We're getting back to Friday nights. So the last Friday of February.
And our topic is
Pandemic romance.
love in the pandemic. We're gonna
Pandemic, right.
we're gonna make it work.
Quarantine
In the time of
can change
COVID.
before you can kiss somebody.
All
Thank
right,
you, everyone.
guys.
Thank
There's,
you.
there's a
Thank
link.
you.
Monica dropped a link in the chat, so if you want Monica's link, you can check it in the chat before you leave. And yeah, tonight was amazing. It was a huge audience, and I'm really, really, really like floored that you guys all came tonight. So
Great stories. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Glad we came.
Great night.
Really
Wonderful. Thank
Good to
you.
see you, Heather.
except for Zoom user down there,
Thank you.
they keep showing
Thank
up.
you.
And
Zoom music, that's
again,
my name. Yeah, that's my handle.
And again, if you're around in Brooklyn, I know a lot of you are somewhere else, but if you're around in Brooklyn, come to Anne's little show on Saturday and my soup.
potato soup.
No, pumpkin soup. Come on.
I know. I just like to take everything and make it potatoes.
Oh, okay.
Martine, I'd love for you to share those beautiful pictures. So I will contact you. They were absolutely wonderful. So I don't have to worry about you not being in Brooklyn anymore. You're living the life.
It's very cold. It's 7 degrees right now. And where my computer is, it's all glass. So I've got a blanket, a shawl, and a hoodie on. So don't envy too much.
Okay, take care of me.
Where are you, Martine?
I'm in Montpelier, Vermont.
Oh, Montpelier.
Martine, it's so good to see you, sweetheart. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you guys. You cannot imagine.
Yes.
Do you remember that Cheerios commercial where they went to all like the different cities, and then there was a little boy that went Montpelier, and is it the capital of Vermont or no?
It's the capital of Vermont.
That's right. That's right. They were talking about the capitals.
Yeah, it's the smallest capital in the U.S. and we do not have a McDonald's or a hotel.
Oh.
Yay.
Wow.
Oh, no hotel.
Lovely.
That makes it lovely. Okay.
Can I leave my email to get on your mailing list?
Nope.
Don't listen to Terrence, please.
Definitely.
Absolutely. As soon as we leave tonight, Open Source Gallery closes down forever.
Nope.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I gotta go make more plastic.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for including me.
Yeah, you were great, George.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Right on. Great to be here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
I never know how to sign off.
Take it easy.